Welcome everyone to this episode of Notes with Jack. My name is Alan Fox. I think we're on episode like 14, 15, and
Beats me.
I'm here with the director of the 2017 Broadway production of a little play called Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Right. Oh.
His name is Jack O'Brien.
Yeah, I should think I should be singing, Margaritaville or something. Don't you think? Don't I look like Don't I look like that old drunk?
Yeah, you do. Well, you got a nice summer look going.
I have this hat.
Uh-huh.
I'm thinking about hats these days.
Okay.
And I found this one.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of got. It looks like I don't give a shit. And
it definitely does.
And I really don't. But I'm tired of not having. I tried to sort of make it summer and make an effort here.
Yeah.
Are we supposed to talk about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory?
Well, I mean, I wore purple in honor of it just because I met a guy yesterday named Kevin McCormick over at Warner Brothers.
Oh my God.
Who was singing your praises when I brought you up, and he said he worked with you briefly or something. So I thought, why not talk about that to start off today's episode? Because I think a few people have heard of that one.
I think Matthew Warchus was the original director of Charlie.
No, I think Mendez. I think Mendez did it.
It was Mendez, and it was at the Drury Lane in London, and it was massive. He was this is full disclosure, but he was going through his divorce right then, and he owned the rights to the property, but he wasn't going to do it.
Yeah.
Then he went through was getting into the divorce, and he needed the cash.
Yeah.
Or thought he might, so he picked it up and did it. I went over and saw it. It was massive, massive. Well, the Drury Lane is being one of the hugest theaters in the world anyway.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to bring that production over, this is not this interesting a story. I think I'm going to really try to get through it because, I don't want to badger our friends here with too much detail, but it's only interesting in the fact that this show turned around 180 degrees. He did this thing. He couldn't come over. The only stage in America that could have accommodated that production is the Metropolitan Opera. I'm not kidding you.
Oh, wow.
It was massive.
Huh.
And what no one ever understands about Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is it's not one story, it's two stories.
Right.
The first half of it is about this poor boy living in poverty and trying to sort of cope with it. Then he gets his golden ticket. The second one is he goes to the factory and then all the magic happens.
Yeah.
So nothing serves both sides of the show.
Right.
So we all sat down together.
Is that the reason why he turned the stage 180? Because is that the two different
No.
settings?
That has nothing. He didn't do that.
Okay.
I'm saying that the experience is 180 degrees for when it should have been. Or how a show is ordinarily done.
Got it. Okay.
So he hands it to me. We're very friendly. We like each other.
Yeah.
We've never actually sat down and discussed this, but anyway, I sat down with the team. So it's Mark and Scott, and it's
Mark who?
Mark Shaman, Scott Whitman.
Okay.
It's basically a lot of the Hairspray alums are doing this as a love gift for the guys to get this thing going, and they turned it over to me. So so we had all these meetings and with a book and what are we going to do with it, and what could we? And we had really good ideas, and we were very happy about it. We had Christian Borle as the lead. Now he had done a lot of the demos of the original songs, so and he's just a remarkable performer. He's He's got heart. He's sort of goofy, yet he has kind of sex appeal as well. There's a kind of glint about him. He's graceful. He's wonderful, and so he'll do a lot. He'll carry a lot. Warner Brothers owned the property.
Yeah.
This was one of their big first inaugural musical things.
Okay.
We went into the Lunt-Fontanne. We were not going out of town.
Yeah.
This is a new musical.
Yeah.
Now, it's not a new musical because they've done it in London. It's supposed to be a transfer. Well, it's not.
Right.
It's all. We now have budget considerations. We've got to look at how to make this practical.
Yeah.
They did the damnedest thing I've ever seen in my life. They made out of the front of Lunt-Fontanne a kind of Disneyland, a kind of Warner Brothers Disneyland of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
Yeah.
There was no indication of what we were doing inside, which was spare and attenuated and very performance oriented. There was a sequence that Hugh Jackman said it was one of his favorite things he's ever seen in his entire life. I was very flattered to hear this, because they all had to go through an obstacle course, and there was nothing there. So there was just sound and action.
Oh, that's cool.
And you watch them all.
Like the kids and their guardian.
The wind, and then they had to crawl.
Yeah.
You know, they had to she had to shove her purse under, and it was crazy.
Yeah.
But it was an obstacle course that didn't exist.
Right. That's cool.
And it's totally cool, except the audience had no clue what we were doing. If you looked at the outside, there were toys.
Yeah.
It looked like a fair ride.
Yeah, yeah.
And
they thought they were walking into the real chocolate factory, and they got in there, and they're just hanging.
Worse.
Yeah.
They thought they were going to see the movie.
Right.
They thought that it seemed to indicate we were going to do the movie. So,
do you run up against that a lot? I mean, I know you're about to do The Sound of Music, and you've talked about that a little bit, like Charlie and the Chocolate, like Catch Me If You Can. Was that, did you bump up against, because you did also, spoiler alert, you did Catch Me If You Can on Broadway too.
Yeah, I did.
Do you feel like people are always comparing it to the movie?
I'm thinking right now that I don't know if this is another book or what I'm going to do. There are some issues that I have not discussed properly in terms of creative problems.
Yeah.
And how they affected me.
Yeah.
The shows I didn't do well.
Yeah.
Impressionism, Nora's wonderful friends, imaginary friends, that didn't work, that I inherited, but it didn't work.
Yeah.
Catch Me never really worked. There's a reason. There's always a reason for it.
Yeah.
And I think maybe I should take a deeper look into there, because I think, I spend a lot of time celebrating what a good time I've had in my life, which is unquestionably true. But also, I'm haunted by these pieces that broke apart. And I turn them over in my mind over and over again. For instance, here's a perfect example. Catch Me.
Yeah, yeah.
Mark and Scott, we were out of town in Chicago with a national tour of Hairspray, high as kites.
Yeah.
And they come in.
Not literally, like not.
No, I mean emotionally and creatively.
Okay.
No.
Right, just making sure. Yeah.
Well, maybe a little.
Because if that were the case, I know why Catch Me If You Can didn't work that well.
No. But we're loving each other. We're loving the experience. We got a wonderful tour out. It's going great. The boys come in, and they have an idea. Mm-hmm. It's Catch Me If You Can, and they'd gone to the drama bookstore in pursuit of another show. I can't remember what that was. And there was a card of the movie of Catch Me If You Can with Leonardo and these gorgeous stews on either side.
Yeah.
This is shocking. I can't say stew anymore.
I don't even know what stew means. I mean, I was going to say that for a jackism.
Stewardess.
Oh, wait, were stews were short for stewardess?
But now this is very sexist. I have to say personnel or something. I don't know what you have to say.
Dude, I like stews, man. Stews can be male. It's not sexist. A male stew?
I think people would take issue with you here.
People take issue with me about a lot of things.
You? Anyway,
all right.
Scotty says, that's the show I want to do.
Huh.
And they both got excited.
Yeah.
Now, they're creatures of the 60s. By that I mean, in the television years of the 60s, those boys were really coming alive. Mm-hmm. And this is way past your bedtime.
Yeah.
But in the 60s, they had these special television things where it would be like Frank Sinatra or Dean Martin or somebody, and there's a big set, and the audience and the orchestra's on the stage. Yeah. Big sets move around. It all kind of flows. It's all about this one performer, and gorgeous music and beautiful men and women singing and dancing and beautifully. Sinatra did them beautifully. Judy Garland. They all did them. They had them.
Yeah.
This is a great idea.
Yeah.
They've also written like at least 4 or 5 songs that are amongst that score is maybe the best score they ever wrote.
Catch Me If You Can one.
Oh my God. Okay. It's a wonderful score.
So hold on, just so we understand. So they see the poster and they sort of have this idea about I'm gonna call it a variety show. I'm not saying that's what it is, but like a sort of solo variety show.
Yes.
And they start writing music for it.
Yes. And that's the concept. And the
orchestra
is good. And everyone says, yeah, this is great.
Yeah.
And then I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to do with the FBI?
Right. Right. It's only half the movie.
I got Norbert Leo got Butts.
Yeah.
Playing the Tom Hanks character.
Yeah.
And there are scenes that take place in the FBI.
Sure.
They're not in a studio. They're not on stage.
Right.
And the minute I knew I had to do that, I knew I was lying.
Mm-hmm.
By that, I was subscribing a conceptual idea that everybody knew was theatrical and beautiful and right for the music, but not right for the story.
Yeah.
And I was, what's the word? Fucked.
Man, that lesson of the story always comes first, I feel like is the thing that a creative person is continually reminded of over and over and over again.
So there we are at the Lunt-Fontanne with this almost Brechtian version of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, reduced to its essence, and that is practical and maybe it'll, we have to do some magic and all this sort of stuff. We sort of got away with it. Mm-hmm. We got decent reviews, not great reviews, but we got a bit of a run out of it, and no one was really embarrassed. Mm-hmm. And immediately a tour is planned. Now the thing about a tour is, it starts basically with a first-class tour, where everybody's in the union and it costs a lot of money, and you're basically sending the Broadway show on the road. Yeah. But usually...
It's kind of what SHUCKED is doing now, right? Like, just for reference.
Totally.
Right. Totally. That's sort of what SHUCKED is on now.
SHUCKED recouped.
Oh, amazing.
The tour recouped this week.
Already. That's crazy.
We're out. I don't know if that's ever happened in my career.
Yeah. Well, I keep telling you, man. Everyone keeps saying it's gangbusters. But anyways, let's keep on Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So, yeah. So you're going on tour with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
But minimal as it is, please always remember it's 2 shows.
Right.
And the only person that knows that are those of us inside who are saying, yes, but what am I going to do for these special effects? Right. Yes, but I need a machine.
Yeah.
Yes, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's got to be dazzling. The second, everybody in the world, now it's a trope. A golden ticket is a trope. Yeah. Everybody knows what that means. Yeah. It doesn't mean necessarily Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. It means you just won something wonderful. People don't even necessarily know it's Charlie.
Yeah. It's so funny because it's the same issue with Catch Me If You Can. It's like perhaps. Well, I'm going to tie this all together, but keep going on, Charlie. I'm sorry.
I'm taking.
All right. Well, you take that water break.
Antibiotics because I have an ouchie on my head that we're not discussing.
We're not talking about
out of politesse.
Right.
But I'm a little dry in the mouth.
All right. And you take the water. What I was going to say was, with Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and with Catch Me If You Can, you're describing issues where I basically have two different musicals that I need to combine into one. And that's always something, even with me from a writing standpoint, what you realize is everyone loves the idea of the story in their head, but when you start to break it apart and you say, wait a minute, we're following two characters that are going in two different directions, it's hard to make that one story. And so, like, it's, once again, the story tells you what it's supposed to be, and if it's not that, then you're just getting excited about ideas and not a story.
Tell me if I'm wrong. It's much easier in film than it is on the stage.
Well, film has its own... Here's an example. The other day, someone was talking to me about a rewrite about a movie about a sort of cop who realizes he's with dirty cops. And they're pitching me this movie, and they start telling me about how, and then you also kind of follow some of the mob guys or something. And they're saying, we can't really figure out why it works, da-da-da-da. And I tell them that when you're jumping POV that many times, nothing feels like it's just moving forward. So that's a different type of conflict. But I'm saying that, like, leaving point of view out of your main character, like jumping around to multiple points of view, unless they're all moving towards the same end point, are not going to give you the feeling of a cohesive story.
No, and so but the audience works with you to do that, which it doesn't on the stage. In other words, I'm told, I'm not a film guy, but I'm told by people who are, that basically the difference is the audience will strain to work with you to try to make sense out of it. I saw this, I'm watching this series that everybody's crazy about, Department Q. I don't know whether you've heard about this. Okay. So it's a wonderful, wonderful series. I watched part 1 and 2 last night. Part 1, I had a lot of trouble following. But I stayed with it. And then in part 2, it starts to make sense to me. Because now I'm synthesizing with Mr. Frank and everybody else how this is put together. And now I've got all the toys in my hand. And now I can work with them. Can't do that.
But I guarantee you, right? But I guarantee you, people, not you inside of it, but people went to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory and Catch Me If You Can, and they probably felt that way. But by the time they left, they said, "Oh, I went with it." Like you're saying, Catch Me If You Can didn't quite work for you, but it obviously worked for enough people. And I think that's a product of being inside of it and knowing the issues versus being outside and watching it. You know what I mean?
Well, anyway, there I am with Norbert Leo Butz and on the stage, and I have to bring in some lights and a desk, and I'm fucked.
Right.
Okay?
For the FBI. For
FBI.
Catch Me If You Can, the FBI. Okay.
And so that's another story.
Right.
But with Charlie, can you scale it down?
Yeah.
Because it has to get into so many trucks, and it's got to travel so much times, and the load-in time is fixed, and we can't have overtime, so it's got to go up at a certain amount of hours, and then you got to be ready to check it.
And that's always a conceptual issue for shows that are going to be going on tour, right?
It's fascinating because there's a whole different scheme.
Yeah.
And they throw it back to you. You can't have that. You can't have the sofa or whatever. You can't have the machine. We can't. Yeah. There's no place to put it in the truck. You have to come up with something else.
Right.
Oh, okay. So you go to part 2, which is a version of that. Mm-hmm. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I reconceived Charlie and the Chocolate Factory 5 times until we got to a tour of non-equity people, amateur people, 4 trucks, much more sophisticated visual shit, because every day these things change.
Yeah.
and you get younger people in who are in competitively trying to get their mark.
Yeah.
And so they get another idea, and what if we change this to that? And I'm telling you, the last version that went out, which was a non-equity version with no professionals, that's the show that should have opened the Fontaine.
Yeah.
It got better.
Yeah.
And that production is going to China this fall.
Really?
Yep.
So it must have been going for at least it's been going for a while, huh?
Well, it's been off.
Oh, it's been, okay.
Yeah,
but that one, that's the one you're sending to China.
They're like five different tours have gone out.
Yeah.
And it gets tinier and weirder, and weirder. But we continue to refine it.
Yeah.
And make it. There's this little box in the first act, which is their little house, we can't have mechanics, so you have to have these fat men bringing it on and hiding behind it, And you think, I can see him. I can see him. I don't want to see him.
Right.
You can't tell you. You can't make this up.
I love this. I mean, I'm such a big believer in the phrase limitation breeds creativity.
Oh, there's no question.
It's like a very David Bowie thing to say, but it's like I feel like anytime you put the guardrails on yourself, and I think that can be time, it can be money, it can be creative choices, you start to get more interesting versions. It's just it takes more time. It's more work. I'm
with a team of people. Mm-hmm. I have this group of men and women who we've all identified, and we keep collecting each other. Yeah. The whole Shucked crowd are very much like this. We've done Shucked on Broadway, and then we took it on the road. That's part 2, and now we just opened in London. We're always there, all of us.
Yeah.
That's never happened before.
Right.
You turn it over to other people and they do it.
Yeah.
We show up.
Yeah.
And we show up and we love it.
Yeah.
And I didn't think we could do this in London.
Yeah.
Forgive me. I thought they're not going to get the music. They're not going to get the humor. They're not going to be able to do the accent.
Yeah.
Wrong. That production, you saw it.
I didn't see it. No, I didn't see it.
Oh, man. That breaks my heart. I wish you could. I'm so proud of it.
Yeah.
The audiences are eating it up.
That's the first thing Kevin McCormick said when I mentioned you to him. He said, "I heard Shucked in London. It's amazing."
It just killed. Yeah.
There you go. It travels. Yeah. And I think that's so cool to be able to. I mean, it sort of runs contrary to trying to make a lot of money or being hyper productive in the arts, which I think is where the intersection of sort of corporations and art meet. Mm-hmm. But being able to come back time and time again with this crew and further refine and further create and make adjustments, making a better product, I think is how it would always be. It's just people are so often on to the next one, or schedules don't align, or let's just get it out the door. It's good enough. I mean, that's at least what happens, I think, with scripts and movies a lot, is we're on a timeline. So-and-so has to go act over here in a month, and so-and-so has to go direct over here in a month. Let's just put it out there because it's close enough. And I don't know. I think that always hurts the product in the end.
Shucked is slightly outside the game.
Yeah.
It's so easily dismissible. And people think, it's just a series of jokes and all that sort of stuff. It's not.
Yeah.
It's a magical little experience. And it changes the people who do it. It changes the people who are in it. I cannot tell you the effect this has had on those British actors. They are euphoric, and they are nailing that material. They're every bit as good as the Americans doing it. Every bit.
Yeah. That's
Isn't that
cool.
great?
I mean, I'm the biggest Shucked. I'm the biggest. Get some more water. I'm the biggest Shucked groupie there is. So I believe it. And I'm glad to hear it translated well. I think it's I think it's amazing. But
that's why I want you to see it in London. I know you can't, but because you've seen every incarnation along the way from the inception, it would be very informative for you to see how organically natural. And also, it's in Regent's Park. Yeah. So here's the barn outside.
That's my favorite part when you talk about it.
And birds are answering, and birds are flying through, and
Yeah.
it is gorgeous.
Yeah.
It'll never be more beautiful than that outside. Just beautiful.
Well, maybe they can transfer it to your backyard in Connecticut next year, and I'll be able to watch it there. I feel like you could, man. I like your backyard.
I got space.
Yeah, unless Coda chases the birds out, but other than that, should be fine.
Well, she's asleep now, so
So you are back in Connecticut, though. Let's get into that.
Back in Connecticut.
And you got a little bit of a gap, about 2 months till you jump back into some things.
Got a little sick.
Talk to me.
No, I don't think sick is not the right word. I mean, I had this cough for a long time, and I'm drying that out.
Yeah, you were globetrotting. We saw each other in Italy. You took me on a tour of the Renaissance art era.
That was fun, wasn't it?
It was a lot of fun. I actually loved it. And I'm not just saying this because I'm talking to you. I was astounded by how much knowledge you had about art. It was incredible. You could have got hired as a tour guide if if no show drops in next year. I feel like they'd be ready to hire you.
This is a sweet story. In 1960, 4 of my chums, fraternity brothers and friends from school, took our first big, grand tour over. And they were all jocks except for me.
Sure. And
we were all really good friends. And they were not into culture. They were into drinking beer and getting laid as much as they could.
Sure.
And yet we were there for 10 weeks. We drove it around for 10 weeks. So what would happen is, because, I wasn't out then at the time, right? I was out inside my head, but I certainly wasn't out to them, and I wasn't getting laid. So I would get up in the morning, no matter how much drinking we had the night before, because you have to keep up appearances. So I get up and I go off by myself to the cultural things and see everything I wanted to see.
Yeah.
And then I would meet them at noon, right? I'd be having a little lunch. They have their breakfast.
Yeah.
and then I would take them to exactly what they had to see.
Wow.
Before they left town.
Yeah.
So they could say, I saw that. Okay?
Yeah.
I knew where they were. I was also a double minor in history of art, so it was important to me.
Yeah.
So we're in Amsterdam, and we're at the Rijksmuseum.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, how am I going to do this? I mean, this is so much art. And I had this great idea. I thought, okay, Rembrandt had this theory of I know I talked to you guys about it, about how light came to the character.
Yeah.
And it was divine. It was his inspiration of God, the revelation, that how the light worked into the character. So I thought, I think I'll do maybe 2 hours on various Rembrandt paintings so I can get that idea through. So I'm taking these jocks to this painting and this painting, right? And they're so hungover now. You can imagine. And they're trying. They try to respect me because it meant so much to me.
Yeah.
And a woman comes over and she says, "Est-ce que tu parles français?" And I said, "Un peu." And she said, "Pouvez-vous faire some expliquer de nous quelque chose comme ça?" I said, "Pourquoi pas?" So I'm now
doing have subtitles. What's she say?
She's saying, "Do you speak French? And could you explain some of this to us?" So I'm now I got like 11 people going through the Rijksmuseum, and I'm lecturing in 2 languages. And they paid me a little something at the end. They tipped me.
You never told me that. That's the funniest thing.
Is this sweet?
Yeah. What did your What did your crew of jocks say about that, man?
They were impressed.
Yeah. Yeah.
They were relieved because they could pee or something while I was doing the French part. I don't know. I don't know. I just felt responsible to, frankly, their parents who were paying for this, that they had to get something out of it besides a bad liver. And a case of the clap.
That's such a funny story.
It's true. I did it. Actually,
I believe it. I believe it because we were going to get into one of these episodes how you speak French.
The only place we needed a guide was Pompeii in Italy. I couldn't do that.
Yeah,
and we paid to go into the rooms and stuff like that.
Right.
Every place else in the Uffizi, in the Louvre, in the Rijksmuseum, I could do it all.
Yeah,
I had prepared for it. I had studied for this moment.
Well, you were ready at the Uffizi too.
Well, it was so interesting because it was so sweet. Remember when can't remember when I said, "I want you to see this room."
Yeah,
this room, because this room is where the two, the birth of Venus and springtime on one side, and on the other side you have Hugo van der Goes. So you have the Northern Renaissance, and I realized 1960. I haven't been in that museum since 1960. Those paintings aren't anywhere. They're not there anymore. And the relief I felt because we went in to see the two Italian. There they were. There was the birth of Venus. There was too many people, and I looked through the next room, and there was the Hugo van der Goes. So at least they were there in proximity.
Yeah.
And I could make the anyway. There were too many people, though.
There were a lot of people.
That was exhausting for me because you can't get into. You can't. I mean, this is still at this point May, and Florence is flooded.
Yeah.
With people already, and you walk into a room, and you can't get in front of the painting. There are too many people, and they're on their phones, and they're listening to the audio thing. And my favorite thing one of the greatest galleries in the world is the National Gallery in Washington.
Yeah.
Have you ever been there?
Yeah, I have. I love it. I love. What's the series of paintings there that's like the different, basically like phases in the guy's life, but it's like the boat. Is it like it's? I don't know. I should know this. I'll look it up for next time. It's like Go ahead.
The only reason I'm saying this is that they have a collection of Vermeer, and the collection, some of the most beautiful paintings that have ever existed, and they have quite a few of them. Mm-hmm. And I think there are only 37 that exist.
Wow. Yeah.
But they're in these small rooms. So you walk in, and maybe there are two other people there, and there's you in the painting. And I mean, you want to burst into tears. Yeah. Because you can see it. You can look at the brush strokes. You can actually see what he did, as opposed to looking over someone's shoulders. I mean, anyway, I love that.
You know, I haven't had the breadth of experiences going to places like this that you have. But what I did find really interesting in Florence, and what it's always reminds me of, is how much attention goes into the level of care that you have to make something like this that stands the test of time. Like you were speaking about, I remember one specific thing when you were talking about where they, it was a depiction of the crucifixion, but where they placed the nails in the painting had symbolic meaning. And I think like for me, it's funny because and it's something that feels sometimes like such a transactional industry, like the movie business. I don't think, and I thought a lot of times I would be crazy because I'll get so obsessed with symmetry on the page of a script that I'll start reworking it because the symmetry on the page doesn't feel right. Now that could be OCD, but I'm just saying, then you go watch these masters of this craft that every little brushstroke had meaning and attention placed into it. I just like that feeling of thinking like, oh, maybe that's the thing to aspire to, not let me finish as quickly as possible. Does that make sense?
Yes. Also, the detail in these paintings. Yeah. A vase of certain flowers represents a whole element. Yeah. A sheaf of grain in front of the tiny baby Jesus lying on the earth. Not, the formality of how Mary has to be represented. There's a formality to it, and you cannot break it. But you watch these people like us refining our work the second and third time, saying, but there must be something more I can do.
Yeah.
And you go back to Giotto and Duccio, where they have taken images basically from 1370, where, you know, there's no expression. All the faces of the saints, all the faces are the same, because you will not worship a graven image.
Right.
You can't do that. So it's just a representation. And then you watch them become more human, more humane. And suddenly you see people straining to take it somewhere else. Yeah. And so people, when I went in school, some of the most celebrated, exciting painters that people are going to see in Uffizi now were not even known at that time. You know, Simone Martini. Some of these people that were just, they were nothing. They were footnotes. Now that people are beginning to find out what they were doing, it's just wonderful.
It's pretty amazing. Wonderful. Yeah, it's amazing how stuff maintains relevance like that over time. I have a very woo-woo belief that, like, the thoughts you have and the attention you place on something translates no matter what. Like, if you put that much effort into it and that much thought, it will resonate in some way to the viewer when they get there. Or at least that's what I tell myself when I think so much about things. And I just, when I go see those sort of paintings, like, you know, in Florence, I'm sort of thinking like, oh, okay, well, that's what they were doing. So that's something to aspire to.
I mean, Leonardo carried the Mona Lisa around with him.
Yeah.
You know, those paintings just before he did that were always on wood. Then they decided to do them on canvas. And he knew what he had, so he would roll it up and take it with him and continue to work on it.
Yeah.
So, and when he died in France, in Avignon, the Mona Lisa was with him.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. I think that's a roundabout. I mean, as we bring this thing full circle to wrap it up, I think what you're saying is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, by the non-union production, was your Mona Lisa, I think is what you're trying to tell me.
Well, ha ha ha.
No.
No, I know. I know.
No, it's true. No, but it's actually true. I love stories like that because I think it matters. You know, like, I know, Shucked, right? I've seen you put so much time and energy and thought into Shucked in every iteration. So then when you get to see it like that in London, that wasn't one transfer in the making. That was 2020 and forward in the making.
When it opened in New York, people said, how did you do that? I said, I didn't really have that much to do with it.
Yeah.
I really didn't think I did until I replicated it in London. And then I realized there wasn't any aspect of what was going on that I wasn't deeply involved with.
Yeah.
And sincerely trying to get out of, I mean, this is an interesting thing. How do you make a joke live? You either throw it out like a saltine cracker and it lands, or you imbue it with something that the character produced a thought that at the time it was coming out of his mouth or her mouth, wasn't really sure it was funny.
Yeah.
I mean, we laugh at each other when we surprise each other.
Yeah.
But not because we've rehearsed it.
Yeah.
But because we love to live in the moment.
Yeah.
And so the difference between stringing jokes together and having a show is having a world in which people talk to each other that way. And the adage that's oft repeated now, because I instituted it with Hairspray, because I had to. In other words, to keep it fresh. You
Yeah.
cannot keep comedy fresh. It's so hard.
Yeah.
And I made them write on their mirror, "You're not funny. It is." And if they take it seriously, they can live. I don't know if I told you this, that at one point in Shucked, there was so much laughter. I said, when you hear the laughter, just think of it as wind.
Yeah. I love that.
And they love that.
Yeah.
They love that.
No,
It's
it is
good.
great. And that's another way to keep it fresh because you don't always know how they're going to laugh. So you
No,
don't know which way the wind is blowing. You
No,
know what I
and
mean?
so you think, oh, there's a breeze going on there. It's
Yeah.
just a breeze. Yeah. It's great. Anyway,
That's great.
So this
I
is
love
it.
All right. Well, thank goodness we got back into it.
Yeah.
After a little break.
Yeah.
So, all right, you're going to be in Connecticut next week, so we'll pick back up. But, aside from that, thanks for taking the time.
It's quite a summer.
Oh, yeah, we got a really busy summer coming up.
We do, I know.
We got a really busy summer coming
know.
up. But more on that to come.
Great sweater.
Thank you. Great hat.
I know it. But you have to wear more color. You don't wear that enough color. That's really good.
All right, man. Well, I wore it because of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, but I guess I'm going to start wearing it for other reasons, man.
Okay, great.
All right. Well, Jack, thank you so much for taking the time. We love you, and we'll talk to you soon.
Anytime. We never close.
All right, bye. Thanks, everyone.